Welcome to Slippery Rock Sports Forum. I'm Madeline Williams, and alongside me tonight are Tim Durr, Zach Smith, and Bill Kostkas. Let's get things started with the first topic of the night. The Butler Bulldogs are back in the Final Four for the second year in a row. Is this run more impressive than last year, and what are their chances of winning the entire thing? This one's all yours, Bill.
I think it's a little more impressive than last year. I mean, they're a lower seed. They're an eighth seed this time around. Last year, I think it was they were more of a 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly offhand, but they knocked off Pitt, the 1 seed, in the second round, and the 1 seed hasn't lost in the second round in like 7 years. I think the last time it happened was UAB over #1 Kentucky. Brad Stevens is probably the hottest coach in all of basketball right now. They're in the Final Four as a mid-major for the second straight year. That's the first time that's ever happened. And they get an easy draw with VCU, who people forget have played 6 games as of this coming Saturday. They were in the first 4, however stupid that is. But I think Butler now has a chance to – you could almost just put them in the national title game, but I don't think they can win it regardless of who they play, whether it be Kentucky or UConn, 2 of the hottest hands of the 4 teams that are left.
I don't know, Bill. I think I'm going to disagree with you with a couple things here. First off, I don't think Brad Stevens is the hottest coach. I think that's actually Shaka Smart for VCU from doing what he did, of everybody saying they don't even belong in the tournament, to getting them into the Final Four from the first 4, able to do all of that. So we're going to touch on them later. But back to Butler, I disagree about. I think Butler actually could be the favorite here. They have the most experience out of any of the teams that are in here, out of the Final Four. Kentucky's hot. UConn, you have Kemba Walker who can always bring it. VCU's just on a huge roll. But I think Butler should probably be the favorite right now. They just play solid. They know how to play. They don't get easily shaken. They were down 11 points, and they were able to come back, close that gap, and win the game in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. So they're definitely a strong team that's, they're able to get the job done when they need to. So I think they have a much better chance. And the question of, is this more impressive? This is more impressive than last year, just because coming back after, they had who they had last year, and everybody thought, maybe Butler will get through there. Okay, they upset Pitt. They're probably going to lose. They're going to run out of steam. And they've just been rolling along, getting to the Final Four. So I think this year definitely is more impressive. Now it just depends what they do with it.
Well, I mean, as we spoke about earlier a couple weeks ago on this show, with, how weak the bracket, where they came out of how weak that it was, I mean, all the Pitt fans kind of, figured that it would, end with a loss to Butler. But in all actuality, I'm not surprised, but I agree with Bill. I think that either way, they're not the favorite. Even in this VCU game, I don't feel that they're necessarily the favorite. It's going to be a great game to watch, though, either way.
Yeah, but I think Tim's right. It is more impressive than last year. But as for VCU, we'll touch on this later, but they shouldn't have even been in the tournament. I don't care how impressive their run's been. It doesn't matter how hot Shaka Smart is when it comes to coaching. They shouldn't have been there. The committee screwed up. They shouldn't have been there.
Well, yeah, that's completely true. That is completely true. The committee did screw up.
I don't think he's even the second hottest coach in the Final Four. I think that goes to John Calipari. Kentucky's been on fire since the SEC tournament.
I don't know how you can say that. After
that guy knows how to coach in this time of the year, and you told me the other day, he agreed with me.
He knows how to coach until the championship game.
Well, that doesn't mean he can't win the championship.
Yeah. If he gets a VCU or a Butler, his guys are definitely better players. He has better players on his team, but VCU, they're on such a roll after nobody had any hope in them. They had perfect motivation, perfect fuel to their fire of everybody saying we don't even belong here. So we win that game, we get a decent draw, and then we run through the bracket, and we make it to Kansas out of nobody knows how that happened, and then they go up by 14 at half on Kansas. They're definitely a competitive team, and I think the winner of the VCU Butler game is just gonna have so much steam going into that championship game. And if it's UConn who they play, they've played so many straight games.
They were supposed to be gone by the second round, according to history, because you play 5 days in your conference tournament. You're not supposed to do anything in the NCAAs. But making it more impressive for Butler, look at where they've played. They've been nowhere close to home. They've had no home court advantage, so to speak, even though they're on neutral. They're based out of Indianapolis, just outside of it. They played in D.C., where they won their first 2 games, and I think the regionals was in New Orleans. Florida had to have that arena packed. That's not too far from I forget where Florida is.
Gainesville.
All right, Bill and Tim, you both have 3, and Zach, you have 1 for the first round. Our next topic of the night is the highly improbable run by Virginia Commonwealth. The Golden Rams had to win a play-in game and were said by most to not even be worthy of making the tournament. Tim, how shocking is the run by VCU?
Well, as we just touched on, it's very unlikely, and it's a lot of people can say, and I even agree with it. They probably shouldn't even be there. It should have been Alabama, Virginia Tech. Somebody else should have been in that position other than them, because they just, they shouldn't have been in the tournament. Their schedule over the year was not that impressive. The games that they won coming down the stretch weren't that impressive. But it's all about, luck of the draw, so to speak. Yeah, the tournament committee put them in there, but they just happened to be put in the right situation to win a game, beat a USC team that really probably shouldn't have been there either, and they get on a hot streak. Their coach he's coaching them well. He hasn't believing in what they're doing, and they're just out there playing as hard as they can and winning games.
Well, this is VCU right now. This is the epitome of a Cinderella story, in my opinion. I just think that, as you said, they had every reason to fail, and no one really had hope in them, and they're just being able to just get to the Final Four with the circumstances that they were in, being that there are just so many doubters against them. It's just really impressive. But either way, like I said before, I think the game with them and Butler is going to be great. But I just don't see either team winning the national title.
I mean, what they've done in the tournament obviously is impressive, but that in no way should make up for the fact that you shouldn't even been in the tournament to begin with. Yeah, lucky run. I'm impressed with what you've done in the tournament. I'm not impressed with your season. But I think Butler's going to end up putting this team in their place Saturday night. They're going to get steamrolled.
I don't know about steamrolled. I said that against Kansas.
Butler's been there before. They've got the experience.
They do. I'm making points.
Stevens is on fire.
I'm making points against each other because I got so much faith in Butler. I think it's just going to be a knockout game. It's going to come down to somebody making a big shot. But yeah, I've been making points against each other, saying Butler's solid. Butler has the experience. Butler can probably win this whole tournament. But I don't know if they're going to get past VCU if VCU comes out playing like they did against Kansas, because the way they played against Kansas, they could beat anybody in the nation. Well,
I think either way, as I just previously said, I don't see either one of them winning the national title, just due to the fact that the two teams on the other side of the bracket are playing at an extremely high level, as we already touched. Calhoun, Calipari, they've both been there. As you both have spoke about Butler's experience, you got to look at the other side of the bracket and just consider what those other two teams are bringing to the table whenever you consider that. But of course, I'm not knocking VCU because it's very, very impressive. But to elaborate on your point a little more, you gotta embed the tournament within their season. So therefore the season is impressive. If you weren't impressed with their regular season, I understand that. But their tournament run has been should make up for a little bit more in terms of impressiveness of their season, how they played.
To an extent, it could make up for what they as an extension of their season. Yes. But the fact that you shouldn't have been in there kind of puts an asterisk on what you did.
Well, I mean, Pitt had a great regular season, and they lost.
That's the theme for them every year.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that with VCU, if you take that into account, I'm not a VCU homer at all. So I mean, I totally understand your point. I'm just saying that you kind of have to embed the tournament. Yes.
Take away the fact that they won the Big East regular season, which is the best conference in the country.
How many teams do they have left out of?
One.
One UConn. I think actually
that happens every year.
Yeah, I actually disagree with you guys.
We can't forget two of them had to play each other in the second round.
Yes, that's true.
Some got teamed up against each other.
But the Big East,
ratings.
The Big East still stinks when it comes to March.
What it comes down to and what really matters is March. So I don't care if you don't belong in there or whatever. When you look at the standings and you see the teams who I consider the best teams in NCAA history, UCLA and North Carolina, because they've been to the most Elite Eights, Final Fours, teams like that. So I don't care if VCU didn't win a single game all season and wins their conference tournament and makes it in with 6 wins, and they run through and do this. They made it in. They got selected in. I hope they win the whole damn thing. That's just that's how I feel about it. It's just such a great story where nobody believed in them. Everybody told them there's no chance, you don't even deserve to be here.
It's impressive for them, but it's also idiotic. There was a stat the other day that 192 people had the Final Four right on the ESPN bracket system.
What's
going on with you?
Who would take that? Seriously, was it like kids, children, women?
It's people that fill out like 80, 90 brackets.
There is one kid who has VCU winning the whole thing. That's the kid who was leading last time I checked.
You can't really tell me VCU is going to win this thing. Seriously.
All right, Tim, you're in the lead. You have 6. Bill and Zach, you both have 5. We'll now take our attention to SRU sports. The women's softball team has won 11 straight games and set a new school record. Zach, how impressive is this accomplishment?
It's pretty impressive. I think Coach Johnson has done a great job with the ladies on the softball diamond. I think that I was just checking. They've won quite a few of their games by a high margin, and I believe the stat was they've hit they've gone for They've hit multiple home runs in 6 straight games. So, they're bringing their bats, they're bringing, their pitchers are bringing their arms. I think it's very impressive, and, there's more to come. There's going to be no slowing them down.
The one thing that makes this even more impressive to me is that after last year, they had the big sluggers who graduated, the big seniors, Jessica Courts, and they had some solid seniors that from the pitching staff also that left this team. And now you come back this season, okay, we got some young sophomores, it's a couple juniors. We got some younger players who are really stepping up and playing very well right now and leading this team on to all these victories, winning 11 straights. Yes, that's something that I don't think anybody really thought they were going to be able to do because they just didn't have that star, they didn't have that standout. But we were learning that they're a well-rounded team, and they're just getting the job done out there, winning games, and like you said, winning by big margins. So I think when they get in deeper into the PSAC play, we're really going to see what happens with everything.
Yeah, they're 4-0 in the conference, and they've only lost 2 games. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, he left off. They're in first place in their division in the conference now. They're doing the exact opposite of what baseball is doing. Baseball started out good. They didn't take advantage of it. They fell apart after winning 6 straight. Now they're just sitting with a mediocre record. Now softball did the exact opposite. They've extended that. They've won more. So now you see the school record, 11 wins. They both said everything's going at all cylinders right now. And Tim actually stole the one main point I want to start out with. They're filling in nicely with people like Jessica Courts leaving from graduation last year. And if you look at their pitching, I always say her name wrong when me and Tim are doing stuff for the paper. It's Shani Alano, I think. I think for this week, for the 3rd straight week in a row, she's the PSAC Pitcher of the Week. Her ERA is like .62, and you got Shauna Walker, who is last like 1.81 ERA. Everything's just going all well at once.
I think it's pretty impressive. Like as I mentioned in my first point, Coach Johnson, and as you brought up about a star players, we spoke earlier when we were covering baseball a couple weeks ago on the show also that. It's 1 through 9 the lineups. Everyone has to show up. Everyone has to play their position. Everyone has to play their part, and everyone has to step up big in the lineup. And that's what they've been able to do. And as you said, the consistency for the ladies has just been great. Obviously, to set the school record. But as I said, they're bringing their bats, they're bringing their gloves, and they're just playing ball. And they're playing in a relaxed state. Whereas baseball, as we were talking, they're kind of urgent, because they were struggling. Now the ladies are really relaxed. They're just playing ball, and that's all you can do. And
they're in a good position, and I feel like when it comes to baseball and softball, those sports are something where you really need all of your pieces to work. It has to be a well-oiled machine, because if one little thing messes up, somebody's not hitting well, you have something in your lineup that's struggling, not doing too good. You can have that person kind of pull you across who's able to hit well for a while. But you need everybody to be at the same level, and you have a couple people who are able to step up higher than that. But you need everybody to be solid, and if you don't have that, you're going to struggle. And right now, that's what they have. They just have consistency across the board, pitching, fielding, hitting. Everybody's doing their job right now, and that's what's making this team so good is that they don't have a star. They have all these girls just stepping in and doing what they're told to do.
Yeah, like before you make your point, individual performance, by each one of the pitcher, whether it be a pitcher, whether it be a hitter, base running, whatever it may be, your individual performance is going to push the team forward, and that's what they've done. Everyone's just maybe not made a huge impact, but they've been able to do that little bit, just enough to push the team to a solid standing as of now.
Okay, Zach, you're in the lead. You had some good points that round. You had 9, and Bill and Tim, you both have 8. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back with the final 3 topics of the night. Welcome back to Slippery Rock Sports Forum. Once again, I'm Madeline Williams. Let's finish the final 3 topics of the night. The NBA regular season is coming to an end, and several teams are distancing themselves from the field. Who do you think is the most impressive team in the NBA right now? Bill, you can start this one off.
After taking a quick look at the stats, I don't really care about the NBA. I don't waste my time watching it. I only have it on before I go to sleep, so it actually puts me to sleep at night. It's the Bulls. They're in first place in the Eastern Conference right now. They've won 4 straight. Other than the fact that they're like second in both rebounds per game and points allowed per game, giving up 91 points a game is tops in the NBA is disgusting. There's no defense in this league, but I like picking them because they're not one of the teams with the big alliances of stars trying to get together to win a title.
Well, actually, the Bulls are probably the most solid team right now. They've been playing the most consistent as of late. Most impressive, I'm going by the team that's on a 5-game winning streak, and they did something that hasn't been seen in the NBA in 50 years last night, and that's the Miami Heat, with Dwayne Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh all scoring 30 points and having over 10 rebounds. Hasn't happened since 1961 with like Oscar Robertson, and two of his teammates who are Hall of Famers back when they played for like the Philadelphia Rockets or something. So, it's so long ago I can't even like find statistical data for like what happened. But that's what impressed me the most. And I think these guys, they can play like that. They can put games together like that. There's so much potential there on that team, and it's finally starting to break through. That team can put up 130 points a night if they're playing solid. They got other guys who can step up and contribute 5-10 points. The main 3 are dropping 95, so they're getting the job done with that. And then one thing I want to touch on, one team that has a better defense than the Bulls is the Celtics, who actually have the best defense in the league.
Well,
food for thought for Bill.
Well, I'm going to agree with Bill. I think the Bulls just, what they've been able to put together, just not recently, but, all year, it's really, they kind of crept up on the rest of the league, in my opinion, in terms of where they are, standings and statistically as a whole, as a team. What they've just been able to do has been really impressive. It's going to be exciting to see, not really necessarily what's happening at the top of the league, more so, who the 6, 7, and 8 seeds are going to be. That's what's really is going to grab my attention down the stretch.
They'll be under 500 probably.
Well, one thing the Bulls have, the others don't. They have the leader in the MVP race right now, in Derrick Rose. He's a little bit banged up, but he's the whatever makes that team go. A good point for anyone that likes the Celtics. They traded Kendrick Perkins about a month ago, and I saw a stat when that happened. When he's included in the lineup with there's Ray Allen,
Rondo,
Rondo,
Garnett, who am I missing?
KG.
I named him.
And Pierce.
Missing whoever it is.
Pierce.
Yeah, Paul Pierce. When those 5 were in any playoff series, a 7-game series, when those 5 were together, they didn't lost. They lost. They didn't. They're undefeated when the 5 played together. When they did lose to the Lakers in Game 7, there was no Kendrick Perkins. Last I checked, so I think they're in trouble when it comes to playoff time.
I think they're going to struggle some. And I think the Bulls are playing solid. Last week in the Rocket, we did NBA Power Rankings. I had the Bulls number 1, and my little tagline that I had with that was Derrick Rose has the Bulls looking like they did in the 90s with a number 23 playing for them. They're on that level. With some other guys are stepping up, and he's just dominating whenever he's staying healthy and playing well. So he's getting the job done for them. But I still just got to go with the Heat. They are just too impressive over these last 5 games. They went back-to-back. They all went 20-10 the night before that, and then they go 30-10 last night. So they're just getting on a roll right now, and it's perfect timing.
It's just been a streaky year for the Heat. We've seen stints like this where they're tearing up. Then you see stints like when none of the big 3 can hit a shot for their lives when it comes to winning the game on the last possession. Clank.
Yeah. How about the Knicks with Carmelo now? They're playing absolutely horrible.
Yeah, they started off great, and
he's playing well.
Yeah, it's do or die now.
Yeah, he's been putting in 30-some points a game, but they're just not getting it done. They're falling down.
Just collectively, they can't bring it together, but, it's going to happen.
Well, they trade their whole team away,
exactly.
pretty much.
Bill, for not liking the NBA much, you pulled away that round. You had 14, Tim, you have 13, and Zach, you have 12. All right, only 2 topics left in the night. Let's turn our attention to hockey and talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pens have won 4 consecutive shootout games and are 2 points behind Philly for the first place in the East. Tim, what are the Pens' chances of making a deep playoff making?
Well, I think to make a deep playoff run, they're going to be able to grind out some games, but I think when it comes down to it, they're going to need Sidney Crosby back, and nobody really knows when that's going to happen. He started skating recently. He's still just trying to get to a point where he can skate without the headaches happening, But I've just been so impressed lately how they played these last 4 games. A lot of defense, a lot of close games. They won 4 straight in shootouts with James Neal just stepping up huge at the end of games, and Alex Kovalev just on the shootouts. They're just doing it. They're getting the job done. They beat 4 pretty solid teams, and they're just doing what they need right now, getting in position for the playoffs. Without their 2 stars, 2 of the probably top 3 players in the league, in Crosby and Malkin, with those 2 guys out, they've pulled within 2 points of first place in the East with next to the Flyers. The Flyers have 102. They have 100 points. So the Flyers lose a couple games, they start winning. They could be the number 1 seed in the playoffs without the best player in hockey.
Well, as you were saying, Bill, about the NBA putting you to sleep, hockey's not. Hockey's, that's what I do. That's what I do to get a good night's sleep. Is turn on some hockey and pass out within a couple minutes. But
if you can find it, it's hard to find.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't pay for Versus, but anyway. I think it's just what's gonna propel their run is obviously gonna be defense. So with that said, Fleury's been he's just been spectacular. He's just been making saves left and right for them. And as you said, just if the Flyers can lose this out and they could lock up the first spot, I think that would put them in better position.
Zoom in on this.
Oh jeez.
I'm gonna say it with me. Flower. Say it again. Flower. Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury has been the man, and all you idiots wanted to get rid of him at the beginning of the season. I just don't understand it. You're without, as these guys said, you're without your 2 best players, and you're on the verge of getting the division title and the top seed in the conference. Unbelievable. And again, it's like people in Pittsburgh are stupid. They want to get rid of Tyler Kennedy too. He's another guy who's picked up in the absence of guys like Crosby and Malkin. He's tore up, but we got to get rid of him. No, let's give more money to Max Talbot because he makes a funny car dealership commercial.
Well, definitely I agree. Kennedy's been lights out lately. Stahl's come back and helped this team out a lot in their absences. Those 2 guys are playing lights out. Fleury's been lights out pretty much all season. People just couldn't see it at the beginning of the year. He's really stepped up. They had their struggles. They've come back. They've been banged up all year. There's really no reason they should even be close to making the playoffs with who they have on their roster right now, and with all the injuries they have. Orpik's been out. Everybody's across the board has had injuries, and now they're just all coming together. Hopefully they're all getting healthy at the right time, and they could make another Stanley Cup run.
And where the hell is the talk of Dan Bylsma for Coach of the Year? I haven't heard one bit of it.
He really should be. That's a great point there, Bill, because he's made the team as competitive, possibly playing better than they would have if Crosby and Malkin were in the lineup right now.
Scrap.
Yeah, working with nothing. He's made a masterpiece out of some cardboard, like some wet cardboard. He's built them. He drew the Mona Lisa with it.
Do you think with Sid and Malkin coming back, this might be kind of dumb, but I'm really not into hockey. But do you think with them coming back, that's going to mess the chemistry that they have right now that they've put together?
So.
Do you think it's going to really?
Not with Crosby. I think Malkin, even though it's possible in hockey to come back in just about 6 months with an ACL.
Yeah.
The way he plays, and the way he disappears and comes and goes and hogs the puck and doesn't pass, that can screw with things. But Crosby. No, that's the touch of Midas if he gets back. I think that's what's going to happen at the end of the season.
I see playoff start. He comes back.
He's increasing his workload as the weeks go.
Yeah, I see him being ready to come back right when playoffs start.
I think Flowers. You got to say he's the team MVP at this point.
Yeah.
And after everyone wanted to ship him out, he's the reason they went to 2 Stanley Cup Finals. Not Crosby, not Malkin. Fleury's the reason.
Yeah, he was the piece that got him there. Without him, this team make this deep playoff run, but they definitely don't go to 2 Stanley Cups.
All right, now for our final topic of the night, we're going to turn back to March Madness again and the NCAA tournament. With only 4 teams left, let's talk about the road these teams have taken to see who can play for the championship. Tim, you can start this.
All right. Well, first off, we've already touched on VCU and Butler a lot, so let's focus more on the other side of the bracket with UConn and Kentucky. UConn, as we touched on a little bit, they had to make a huge run through the Big East tournament because they played sloppy coming into the Big East tournament, and they were 9-7. In conference coming into the tournament, and they run through that, get into the bracket, start playing. Everybody goes, they're going to get tired, they're going to get worn out, and everybody's saying that they're probably out second, third round. Well, third, fourth round since everything's changed with the first 4. But they said they're going to go out, they're not going to make a deep run. They're able to do that. Now they're sitting here in the Final Four looking fantastic. Kemba Walker's playing lights out as he has all season. And I think this team, if Kemba Walker comes in, I think he's going to will this team past Kentucky into the championship game. And then for the other side, it's just such a toss-up. I'll get back to that. I'll let you guys talk.
Well, for me, as you said, I'll take a look at the Kentucky-UConn matchup. And I think the Brandon Knight, Kemba Walker matchup is going to be great to watch. It's going to be great television if you're big into college basketball. And I take Kemba, as you said, leading them into the finals. I think Lamb, Oriaki, all those guys have stepped up huge, especially Lamb. He's just been playing great. I know who I want to win, the right side, but I'll let Bill touch on that.
As I said, Butler's a shoo-in for the national title game. I think if you want some interesting basketball, go to the other side between Kentucky and UConn. UConn's got Kemba Walker, and we see at least every other year, at least it seems. Some team's got some guy that takes a team on his back and takes him that far. But as for his supporting cast, I don't think UConn's Lamb is the best Lamb in the tournament. I'm going to look at Kentucky's. You got Knight and Lamb and DeAndre Liggins. I mean, Calipari's got these guys on fire right now. That's who I like. I like how Calipari coaches in March. I can't back that up because he doesn't have championships, but maybe he'll come through this one time.
Well, I mean, I never really thought about it. I guess the Kentucky players do have some incentive. I guess there's like a, $500,000 game check for each of those guys.
Every time he's been to the Final Four, every time he's been to the Final Four, it's been taken away. He went there with Massachusetts, went there with Memphis. They were both taken away because of violations. So we'll see how much Harrelson's making for playing center for them this game.
Calhoun hasn't been so clean in ethics himself.
No,
he's lucky to be here.
He hasn't been. But what I want to talk about real quick is Brandon Knight. He's won the games. Here's what happened with him. He doesn't show up and hits the buzzer beater to win the game. It's like his only bucket of the game. Or he shows up and drops 30. So he hasn't been the most consistent. He just stepped up when he needed to. And, Kemba Walker does the same thing. So I think this game could be, a shootout to the end. Could go to overtime. But just both teams just willing their way, trying to get to the championship. But I'm going to go with UConn. And I'm going to, even though I said Butler has the experience and this and that, the VCU story, VCU is going to beat Butler. They're too hot right now. Shaka Smart, he wills this team back the same way that Brad Stevens wills Butler. So both these games are going to be lights out, even though it's not who we expected at all and not who anybody would have ever said would be good games to see for the national championship. I think these final 3 games, the 2 Final Four in the championship game, are going to be fantastic, even though it seems like you're putting the blue blood there every year, UConn and Kentucky, up against these nobody mid-major schools in Butler and VCU. I still think the championship game is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take that also. I'm gonna take UConn, VCU, but who wins the Butler VCU game is going to be more on the coach's end. I think the X's and O's. Whatever coach brings his head and gets his team to believe in that. The game plan for that given night is gonna win it. But I think that's gonna be VCU. And then Kemba Walker's gonna, they're just gonna obliterate VCU. UConn is, and Kemba's gonna carry, UConn to victory as he's had it all year.
All right, well that's the end of it. Tim, you won. You had 22, and Bill and Zach, you both tied. You both had 20. All right, Tim, I guess you get some FaceTime.
All right. Over this past weekend, I actually went and saw a movie I want to talk about. I went and saw Sucker Punch. And I read some reviews before going and seeing it, and a lot of people really hated on it. They said there was no dialogue. It was just degrading to women. I thought it was a fantastic storyline. It's probably one of my favorite movies. I'm not going to say it's the best movie I've ever seen. That goes to Donnie Darko. But it was just one of the most enjoyable movies to watch. I was so interested and so intrigued in watching it. Bill's over here because he's so cliche when it comes to movies. Turn on Star Wars. Let's watch Indiana Jones. Let's be unique, Bill. And let's watch some good movies. Go out there and see Sucker Punch, everybody. It's a solid movie. It's just enjoyable all the way through. There's some scenes that you're a little, that's a little. It's not like. It's not that it's out there, but it is out there.
It had Axe from Backdraft. That's the only thing I know about it.
Yeah, what exactly is it? What's the baseline?
All right, we'll take a couple minutes to explain this real quick at the end of the sports forum. The storyline, I'm going to tell you, most people just tell you it's a bunch of hot chicks and a bunch of action, but...
That's good enough for me.
Yeah, and that sells you, but it's deeper than that. It actually has a solid storyline. It's about this girl goes to an orphanage. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but just a lot of stuff happens, and it's just a fantastic movie.
Orphanage,
Matilda.
hot chicks.
Yeah.
Matilda.
Put that on your movie list. Matilda with guns. Put it on your movie list.
Thanks for watching Slippery Rock Sports Forum. Congrats to you again, Tim. Have a good night, everyone.
Didn't know it was a movie break. That was the end of it. Yeah.